Nigeria is expected to see about 26.5 million people grappling with high levels of food insecurity, as disclosed by the federal government and its partners during the unveiling of the October 2023 cadre harmonized analysis on food insecurity. This is in addition to approximately 9 million children who are at risk of suffering from acute malnutrition or wasting. Of this figure is an alarming 2.6 million children who could face severe acute malnutrition and require critical nutrition treatment. The devastating revelation is coming at a time the government plans to spend from the National Agricultural Development Funds as captured in the 2024 budget, a paltry sum of 102.5 billion out of the total agricultural sector budget of 362 billion naira to tackle the threat of food insecurity across the country, where food inflation hits 33.93%, putting more vulnerable citizens on the edge. It is against this backdrop we'll be engaging Professor Garba Sharubutu. He is the Executive Secretary, Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, ARCN. Welcome to the program, Prof.
Thank you very much, Hamza.
We're happy having you in our studio.
Great to talk to Nigerians.
But before we commence the conversation, here are some tidbits. Mufwang of Plateau State has raised an alarm that security agencies in the country have been infiltrated by fifth columnists, including people who are agents of criminals unleashing mayhem on the Plateau and other parts of the country. The governor made this claim Wednesday on Trust TV's Daybreak show while responding to questions on the response of security agencies after violent attacks in the state and in other parts of the country. Here's a video clip from the interview.
Those who have weaponized ethno-religious sentiment are elites. They are elites. I have discovered that the ordinary people are victims of elite manipulation. You find that when people are getting out of political relevance or seeking advantage, that there's a tendency to look for some kind of political oxygen to revive their dying fortunes. And this is what we must continue to checkmate, where religious leaders go on their pulpits and make very, very inciting statements that, first of all, are not factual. We must condemn it in all terms. There's one recently circulating on the Plateau, which we have asked the security agencies to look into it critically, because those statements are not only inciting, they are irresponsible, they are wicked, because they are not based on facts. Now, what we are doing is to expose these elites for who they are. And I am a grassroots man, so I'm getting directly to the people and engaging them, educating them that we can live together in harmony. We must not allow these barriers of religion and ethnicity to hold us back. After all, like you mentioned, these crises have persisted for over 2 decades. Nobody has benefited from it.
And elsewhere, as the Supreme Court set to deliver judgment on the March 18, 2023 governorship election dispute in Nasarawa State, some women from the state converged at Unity Fountain at the heart of Abuja, the nation's capital, to seek for a verdict that will reflect the wishes of the Nasarawa State electorate in the interest of justice. They spoke to a group of journalists ahead of the Apex Court judgment. Hear them.
We are in Abuja under one of the popular public spaces, the Unity Fountain, to express our concern over the injustice meted on us by INEC during the March 18, 2023. More so, even though we are aware that all the justices assigned to handle our case at the Apex Court are Muslims, we still have our...
We'll now take a short break, and when we return, the conversation with Professor Sharubutu commences. Don't go away. Welcome back. Of course, Prof, we are here with you to discuss food insecurity in Nigeria. But I saw you smiling when we played the 2 tidbits. Let's start with Plateau. Coincidentally, you are from there. Mufwang said elite behind the crisis in Plateau? Who are the elites? Maybe you are one of them.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, viewers. I will recall I was recently on the Good Morning Nigeria.
Okay.
And I didn't fail to mention that specific point that he raised. He is looking at it from the point of view of elites causing the problem. But I'm looking at it from the failure of the colleagues to actually provide a solution to this problem. Because when they say you are an elite, the expectation there is that you are so enlightened enough to be able to tell your people when to behave and how to behave correctly. Again, His Excellency the Governor, he has the first knowledge because he's the Chief Security Officer of the state. It will not be easy to dispute what he is saying. But if you look at the Nasarawa scenario, it has given His Excellency the Governor the right answer.
Okay, you're talking about the second thing.
Yes,
these women at the...
Yes, just at the point
yes.
where she wanted to ventilate the issue of religious sentiment, which she was complaining about, the clip went off.
Yes.
But you see, he is insinuating the fact that religious leaders on the pulpit are causing a sort of disharmony. The issue of Plateau is well known.
What is it?
To be candid with you, if you want to win election in Plateau State, just abuse the Muslims. And then you are all for it. And we know it. Most of the people that won election won it under the claim that one person or the other is supporting the Muslim population. And if it is true, we want to get at this. We want Plateau to be a monolithic state.
Then is it that, because I've never seen from a serious party, for instance, a Muslim trying to become governor of Plateau State, is it that they tend to show that one Christian is more Christian than the other? To say that, okay, this one is aligned to the Muslim. Yeah,
you see, if you look at the social media and you look at the stories that are coming from some of our youth on the plateau, you find out that it's like the Muslim is an endangered species. And of course, there is no doubting the fact that most of the things that were coming out on the social media is to fabricate one form of story against one candidate to say that this candidate supports the Muslim, this candidate wants to sell the country to a Muslim, this candidate wants to sell the state to a Muslim. So the truth about it is that the political elites are within themselves, responsible for these fabrication of stories against either the Sultan, against one religious leader or the other. Now, on the part of the Muslims also, that some of the clerics that are Muslims are not also very cautious in the way they bring out their terminologies, because an imam will also stand up and say, look, and this is also our state, we must do this, let us condemn these infidels and all the rest. So if the elites are not responsible, I cannot see people within the villages coming up to know who wants to sell a state or the other. So the political elites, they must be very, very cautious about what they are saying, particularly in Plateau State. The same scenario is now beginning to rear its head into Nasarawa State.
Because they are, after all, they were one.
Of course, they are neighbors.
Yes.
So I will not doubt the fact that there are political elites from both sides of the divide that are moving into these states and beginning, to pass this type of negative message to them. As far as I'm concerned, I was trained by the Catholic. There is no...
In Plateau State?
In Plateau State. There is no activity of the Catholic that I am not invited. And the records are there. Because I don't see the reason why I will begin to segregate against my brother or my cousin who is a Christian, to segregate against the same church that gave me the education for me to rise up to this level. So in most cases, a few of us play neutral politics in order for us to make sure that we bring people together. By the special grace of God, I'm the Chief Executive Secretary. I'm the Chief Executive, the Executive Secretary of the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. We just finished the last round of employment that President Bola Tinubu asked us to do. The Honorable Minister supervised it. And you find out that there are equal numbers, so to say, of Muslims and Christians.
Eminently qualified.
Exactly. Today we held a training program, and everybody was clapping his hands there because you find out that it was so cosmopolitan. People were expressing their views. People are free to mingle between the Muslims and Christians, and then the Igbos, the Yorubas. In fact, my opening address was to warn them, to say that Mr. President does not want any divisiveness in this country, and that we have the mandate of the Honorable Minister to report anybody that goes back to his own institute, and rather than talking about his mandate, goes there to talk about one form of religion.
You were born and brought up in Plateau. At what level did that amity degenerated?
Well, you see, I may not be old enough to know when it started. But when we were discussing together with General Minor, he said, this issue of farmers-herders clash and the issue of people attacking one another started as far back as 1929.
1929? On the plateau?
Yes, on the plateau. And that was according to General Minor. General Minor was a GOC in Plateau State. But as far as my understanding of this crisis started, when this crisis started, it was during the time of Daria that we witnessed this type of,
1999,
yes,
2001.
of problem. So if that is the case, when it was not as serious as it is during the military era, we can now begin to assume that the birth of political activities was actually the beginning of when this thing starts. So you cannot exonerate what is happening on the plateau to the issue of politics. And how is this politics played? It's not played in terms of one party against the other. It's in terms of one religion supporting one party and the other religion predominantly supported by another ethnic group. That is what is happening on the plateau.
How are we going to resolve this? Now the governor, you can see, we let an excerpt from his interview, we let the newspaper with it today, saying that even the military, the last hope, has been infiltrated by fifth columnists. Could that be true?
Well, I may not be in a position to understand that because, like I said, the governor has his own source of information. But as far as I am concerned, it is not about the military. It is about the taking over of the activities of our own community by youth organizations that decide to form themselves as vanguard of their own area. It is about trying to make Plateau State a monolithic state, to say that these are indigents and these are settlers. Now, the indigents are identified with a political party, so to say, and then the so-called settlers are identified with a different political party. The so-called settlers that are Muslims are taken more seriously negative than settlers that are Christians. So I think this is what is happening. And the youth have now taken over the responsibility of saying we are going to protect our land because this is our land. Let me give you this example. Saudi Arabia is the most monolithic country we have on earth. But Saudi Arabia is opening up. Women are driving now in Saudi Arabia. Ronaldo something.
The footballer.
I mean, the footballer. He went there with his girlfriend, something that was not possible. Saudi Arabia are trying to build a city that is going to involve everybody because the oil is getting finished. And because the oil is getting finished, they now decided to say, let us go to trade. Dubai, we started together with them. It's because they have opened up. And because they open up, everybody is moving into that place. Nobody is going to tell you that you are a Muslim or you are a Christian. This is where we all go and converge. So this is where we should drive Plateau State. Because I can tell you, we have some of the most educated persons in Plateau State.
Where are they? It's like they have disappeared into the larger Nigeria.
Everybody is relocating. Let me tell you, even our women, even our girls are getting married to people from either Kogi, Benue, Igbo, and all the rest. Because everybody wants peace. So we cannot use our hands to destroy that state. For example, myself, I've been in Sokoto for over 32 years. And there is no month I can tell you I will not get home to my people. I get home.
Back in Plateau.
Yes, back in Plateau. I get home to my people. I establish my farm on Plateau. I make sure that my parents are there, even during crisis. If I say I want to take my parents out of that place, what of my brothers? If I take my brothers, what of their wives? If I take their wives, what about the parents of these wives that we are? And I think this is where the elites need to think about how we are going to get Plateau. To make sure that we build a state there. Virtually everybody wanted to retire and get to Plateau because of the weather. So many industries were located on the plateau. The National Veterinary Research Institute was actually moved from Zaria, Zango Shanu in Zaria to Plateau State because of the clement weather that we have in that place, because of the hospitality of the people in that place. Then all of a sudden, things started getting haywire. Like I said, the escalation was during politics. And so the politicians within themselves, whichever side of the divide they belong to, must sit down and redress themselves. Now that we have already reached the end of these court cases, I think there is no need we sit down there and be looking at each other from the point of view of Labour Party, APC, and PDP. The governor now has a responsibility to accommodate everybody. Call them all together, not one after the other. Identify the leaders of the APC, identify the leaders of the Labour Party, and come up and say, look, hey, I am the governor of this state today. As far as I am concerned, I have forgiven all the lies we have told against ourselves. I have forgiven all the mayhems that have been created. Now you have a responsibility to join me so that we'll do that. We don't do that on the pages of newspaper. Let us do that in concrete terms and then sit down there and say this. I belong to the other side of the party. I belong to the APC. And I fought for the APC. But today, Mutfang, whether I like it or not, is my leader. There are members of the House of Assembly. And so let him call them at the House of Assembly, sit down together with members of the House of Assembly, whether you like it or you don't like it based on the outcome of the case. He is the leader now. Now, where you have the speaker come out to say, I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that, that is not going to lead us somewhere. By now, after this mayhem, the State Assembly should have sat down by now to sit down and think of the way forward. Then let him invite all of us who are elites. Let's sit down and think about what we are going to do to our various communities.
All right, very good. And finally, the second tidbit, of course, you said something about it, where the women were heading to. There was similar scenario on the plateau. Must courts actually bow to sentiments when taking decisions?
Well, I don't believe that the court should bow to sentiment. I don't want to talk about the Nasarawa scenario because they are awaiting judgment.
Yes, it's
but let me talk about post-judgment. Whoever gets the leadership of Nasarawa State Governor as sworn in should be able to call all these people together, because we are seeing a very, very dirty politics in Nasarawa, where people are not afraid of coming out to show their own sentiments. You know, the unfortunate thing here is this. If you watch that clip again, you will find out that there are Muslim women by the side, one in white hijab and the other one in red hijab. But the insinuation of the leader that was reading this and say, even though the judges are all Muslims. Yeah, that was what she said. And then it cut off. So by implication, the Muslims are there supporting definitely a Christian aspirant or a candidate, but yet the person reading out of sentiment and inbuilt, emotion was almost at the point of accusing Muslim judges. If you really listen to what the clip said.
I think we have to learn a lot to keep Nigeria on. Thank you very much on your take on these two important tidbits. You're now addressing Nigeria's food insecurity. You are the Executive Secretary, Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. Tell us brief about this institute.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria was actually set up as a coordinating body for all the agricultural research institutes that we have.
And there are many, more than 20.
We have 16 agricultural research institutes and 17 colleges of agriculture. The mandate of the Agricultural Research Council is actually to advise the government, coordinate and design research, to undertake teaching, and to also have extension service. So these are the three major mandates of the Agricultural Research Council: research, teaching, and extension. And of course, each of our agricultural research institute has its own mandate crop. And so there are some that are meant for cereals, and for cereals we mean grains. There are those that are meant for root crops. There are those that are meant for livestock, those that are meant for fisheries. So this is how we are divided. And then the agricultural training institutions, that are the colleges of agriculture, are meant to train people based on the specific mandate of their associated research institute. By implication, each agricultural research institute has a corresponding college of agriculture, so that whatever produce they are able to come up with in terms of genetic modification of their crops, we believe that those agricultural research colleges that are attached to them should be able to understand the rudiments of this research and will be able to master the art of taking information from the research institute to the farmer. So this is how we are made up of. And we are spread across the length and breadth of this country.
There is
virtually no region.
17 research institutes.
16 agricultural research institutes.
Yes.
And then 17 colleges of agriculture.
If you put the number, it's quite large. Let me just put this question before we go to specific. Why are we hungry in Nigeria then? With all this investment?
You see, there are use of words that I may not be comfortable with. To say we are hungry.
Are we not hungry?
That language or that word should be redefined to know whether we are hungry or we are food insecure. Now, I want to believe that accessibility to food is more of a problem, because when we say we are hungry, it means we have given up. I'm
actually taking this from people in Lagos State, yes, about a month ago when the president visited. Yes, he was passing through market, yes, and they came with placards, "We are hungry, we are hungry, we are hungry." Yeah, part of it may be politics. Part of it may be politics. That's why I prefer to use the word that we are talking about inaccessibility to food rather than talking about outright hunger. Because if you say, "I am hungry," it looks as if you have, to me, it's as if you have given up totally on any effort to make sure that we correct the situation. And that is why Mr. President, in his own right, has decided to take on the subject matter in terms of food security. And that's why he made it his #1 priority. And he has challenged the Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development and Food Security. He has changed the name of the ministry from Agri and Rural Development to Agri and Food Security. That is to draw our attention to the fact that we cannot completely give up on the search for food. And the search for food starts with the research institutes. For us to be able to study the situation on ground and bring up viable options that will lead to more production of food so that Nigeria will be food secured. His #1 priority, of course, is the subject of food security. When you talk about food security, Nigerians believe, and all over, action speaks louder than words. In the introductory part, I made mention that 102 billion out of the total 362 billion, was, set aside to address the issue of food security. Is that enough for a whole year now? No, I don't think we got the figures right. Okay. You are quoting what was budgeted for the National Agricultural Development Fund. Yes. This, by Mr. President's idea, does not cover what is sent to Agricultural Research Council. This does not cover what was sent to the ministry. It does not cover what was sent to the various departments and the Agricultural Research Institute. This is money that was budgeted for NATFund. Yes, and we mentioned it. Now, NATFund has a budgetary allocation because they need a takeoff grant for them to be able to organize themselves, establish themselves, and start, to implement their own mandate. But NATFund has an act, and the act has made provision for how money will be sourced from agricultural activities into their coffers. So NATFund is just like TETFund. But what about the entire budget of the ministry? I think we quoted it right, 362 billion? You see, I have one interest in me. Okay. People love quoting figures in terms of percentage. They say education must have 26%, food must have 16%. By the time you begin to calculate all those percentages in terms of all the sectors, you end up with more than 100%. So the point there is that there is nowhere in the whole of this world where you can have budgetary allocation that will satisfy the need of each of the sectors. So what we have now
by the dictates that is coming from Mr. President through the Honorable Minister, Abubakar Kyari, and of course his brother, Sabi, is that we must also go out and look for how we are going to augment our activities. Now, what have they come up with? They have come up with a tripartite understanding between the Ministry of Water Resources, Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Agriculture, that each institution under either education or water resources that has available land for us to go into cultivation must make available that land so that we'll go into cultivation of that land. Now, it seems as if we are going back to the days of Operation Feed the Nation. We are going back to the days of OFN, so that each parcel of land that we have, we must learn to move into it and try to bring up food from that place. They have also decided to reorganize the commodity associations. Let me tell you this, that the commodity associations, like I can cite to you, like Mieti Allah, Cattle Breeders Association, the Refan, and all these things, Mr. President is trying to take them off politics so that they will not bring the issue of food security into political activities. And that's the more reason why, when he was declaring a state of emergency in terms of food security, he said he will revisit the commodity associations so that their mandate will now for them to look at their members and bring up solutions as to how these members will be satisfied to move into the farm and try to bring up food.
Maybe some people will be taken aback when you said this tripartite arrangement, where any available land, maybe within colleges of education, maybe colleges of agriculture, the institutes and all that. Is it that you people are giving up on the vast arable land we have all over the country? You surrender them to bandits?
No. Those lands are available for farmers. But those of us who run these institutions must go into farming.
Okay, this is the approach.
So this is an incentive that will make everybody who operates within the agricultural sector to go into agri. According to my minister, it is not enough for you to be a professor of agriculture without a parcel of land to farm. It's not enough for you to operate within the Agricultural Research Council and you have vast land in, like, for example, Federal College of Land Resources in Kuru, and you leave the land there without farming.
And the land is there.
So the point there is that we must lay our hands on the land, because it is only when we are able to produce enough food or exemplary farmland, we are able to plow those farmland on our land, that will be able to convince the young ones over there to go into farming.
As you rightly said, your council actually regulates activities of all of these agricultural related institutions. Are you worried that most of their findings are not finding their ways to the farmlands because of maybe insecurity?
You see, I was at the defense, the budget defense, and this issue was raised, and I debunked that issue.
Oh, you debunked that?
Yes, I debunked the issue.
Why? How?
Because it's not true that our research findings are on the shelf. It is not true. And I will give you example one after the other. Between 2006 to 2015, we had what we called the West African Agricultural Productivity Program. We were the ones taking our seed from Nigeria here to Mali, to Ghana, to Burkina Faso. Where did we get the seed? They are products of our own research. Today, in the whole of the African region, we are the second country to introduce insect resistance cowpea. Where did we do the research? It's here in Nigeria. When the tomato Ebola came, we were the ones that looked for solution for tomato Ebola. As I'm talking to you today, the National Cereals Research Institute has produced over 65 varieties of rice. Quick maturing, drought resistance, flood resistance varieties, disease resistance. Just last week, we were able to come up with different varieties, new varieties of maize that is resistant to armyworm. So where is the shelf that these researches are?
Okay, I have a follow-up question on this, but we will go on a short break.
Thank you very much.
Yes, viewers, don't go away. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. If you are just joining, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Do well to follow the conversation across our social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. We've been interfacing with Professor Garba Sharubutu. He's the Executive Secretary, Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. Prof, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
It was actually gratifying that you debunked the claim that your findings, are not finding their way to the farmlands. But the flip side is that they are only finding their way to the farmlands in the neighboring countries because of the infestation of the farmlands in Nigeria by bandits. Can we attribute this to the issue of the food insecurity we are battling with?
You see, we can't say that they are finding their ways only to our neighboring countries, because I have given you example of what we have been able to produce, and of course we are using here. The problem we have is that of off-takers of our technology. By our mandate, we are supposed to research and bring in new innovations, new technology. The responsibility of the rest of the populace is actually to adopt that technology. Where we are having problem, which I will agree with you, is our inability to take these research findings to this doorstep of the farmers, as many as possible. And why is that so? It's there because the Constitution has made provision for agriculture to be on the concurrent list. And the issue of extension work is now more or less domiciled on the local government as well as the state government. And the state government has not gotten the political will to actually make sure that, the extension workers are well educated or they are allowed to do their job. And that's the more reason why the ADPs are down. The Fadama projects are down, because these are programs that were intentionally made for our research findings to reach the rural populace. But the few ones that have been able to reach is because each research institute has been mandated to have a department of extension. And it is from that place that we take them. And agricultural knowledge are learned from reciprocal colleagues. So when you see me do good, another person adopts it. That is the more reason why it is very, very slow. Now, if you look at what this administration is doing, today as I'm talking to you, my minister is in Kebbi State, again to flag off activities.
Kebbi is the delight of almost every person.
No, but this is not where he started. He started from Jigawa State. And Jigawa State, it was where we declared the dry season farming.
But are you worried? Okay, Jigawa relatively safe.
Yes.
Kebbi to some extent. What about Zamfara? What about Katsina? What about Plateau? What about Benue? These are states known for producing food. Taraba, for instance. Farmers have all been chased out. I know it's not your fault. Are you worried that these places are not secure?
No, we are worried because that is one of the critical factors we are expected to address. But let me tell you, if you listen to Mr. President, after addressing, I think, the APC Governors Forum or so, he came up with one solution, which is attacking the problem directly. He said they are going to have forest police. Now, for the past 17 years, I have been shouting over the need for us to police our forests. Criminality is incubated in these forests, whether you call them farmland or anything. It is executed there because they come and steal people from the town and take them to the forest. And these forests are not known to soldiers. They are not known to police. They are not known to civil defense. So what happens? It is only the forest guards, if trained, that would have been able to penetrate these forests. And
you have remnants of them because we read it in agricultural science, in those days, that is, ahead of independence.
No, they only exist in the local government, and you see them with catapult. At this age, how will you go and police the forest with catapult? How can a local government actually police the forest? If you look at the scheme of service of the Federation, it made provision for forest guards. These forest guards are nowhere to be found. And this is a scheme of service of the Federation. So the frontal attack that Mr. President, and I'm happy with it, is for us to be able to police our forests. Because when we are able to police our forests, people will not hide in the forest and be perpetrating all forms of evil acts.
And perhaps
in Kenya, for example, they are able to control their forests. In India, they are known as the unseen heroes.
Is it exclusively using the forest guards, or they also deploy serious technology?
No, the forest guards are as serious as any other military.
And they also use
personnel.
technology.
Yes, they use
beyond
technology.
The physical
They
presence.
use drones. They use the GIS in order to identify where potential areas or flashpoint of crisis are going to be there. So if you arrest somebody, for example, today, or maybe you kidnap somebody and take him to the bush, you will find out that the forest guards, they know the terrain very well. They will be able to attack it.
But you can see...
Now, if that is done, I can assure you that that is the first step towards reducing the issue of insurgency in this country.
But even towns and villages are not secured now. The police, they don't have the technology.
No, it's true, but I have told you quite clearly that these things are incubated in the forest. So the towns cannot be safe. Because where this criminality is incubated is quite safe for the criminal. So he moves into the town and snatch you, at gunpoint and take you back to the forest.
But beyond the issue of policing the forest, many believe that many governors are not really ready to address the root cause of this insecurity, farmer-herder crisis. President Buhari tried to have this Ruga. They changed the name almost 3 times, but many state governors resisted this. Do you think Tinubu will crack this nut?
I am not within the security arrangement of the government. I'm only within the agricultural arrangement.
Which is very, very important.
And
also.
It is important. And what we have told you here is the fact that take care of the forest. That's where the farmlands are. That is where criminals are hiding. That is where our mineral resources are. That is where our trees are. And so if you take care of this vital component of our own country, I can tell you that it's not going to be a problem. And like you asked, I believe that he is ready to confront it, and that is why the idea of a forest police is coming into.
But are the governors ready to embrace it, one? And then secondly, were you happy when President Buhari brought the concept of Ruga? And will it have been the antidote?
I was very, very happy.
Okay.
Very happy because when the concept of Ruga was brought, it came along with the concept of ranching. It came along with the concept of sedentary, animal rearing. If we had received this with all good intentions, go back to our various states and then try to adopt it to our peculiar situation, that could have been better for us. Let me tell you, I was part of the advisory team of Governor Lalong in Plateau State. And when this idea came, we were moving from one community to the other in order to enlighten people as to the importance of this. Yes, he faced resistance. But the truth about it is that if we had actually keyed into that program, the idea we brought was the fact that let us adopt this initiative to our own environment. Because on the plateau, for example, there is no ethnic group that does not rear cattle. No ethnic
plateau,
group.
and there are quite a number of...
No ethnic group does not here. You have among the Tarok people, large number. You have among the Montol people, the Tal people, the Mwagavul people, the Birom people. They rear quite a number of livestock. And of course, you have the Fulani people who also rear livestock. So the idea would have been what percentage should go to the so-called indigenous people who want to rear livestock. What percentage of that money is supposed to go, intervention is supposed to go to them? What percentage is supposed to go for those who rear pigs in terms of piggery? What percentage is supposed to be used in order to make sure that the Fulani people stay in one place? Because if you only develop Ruga, our concern on the plateau was how can a typical Birom man leave his land and go to settle on that Ruga? It's not going to be possible. So we said, fine, those of them that rear livestock in their various communities, understandably, they already have their own land. So why can't we encourage them to settle? Because let me tell you, when this argument was going on, the typical plateau man was assuming that the Ruga the Ruga issue was just meant to solve the problem of the Fulani.
Because of the name, Ruga.
But Ruga is not even a Fulani name anyway.
Whose name is it?
That is, of course, it's
rural.
Exactly. It is not. But of course, it has been Hausanized and then fulanize or something of that nature into believing that when you talk about Ruga, it's this.
But the word has been there for very long. I mean, it's an acronym.
Yes, all forms of nomenclature now came in. Because when my minister, Audu Ogbe, mentioned the fact that we want to build colonies, people say, aha, the Fulani are coming to colonize Plateau State. So nomenclature became a problem. Nomenclature became a problem. So it's either a Ruga or a colony or a ranch. And then we are moving to solve the problem of understanding of language rather than actually studying the document to understand what is there.
Since your duty is actually to research, and dish it out, can you provide another option instead of doing it at the national level? What can you advise them? I saw some of your photos and videos somewhere. I saw small, is it water pond?
You see, what we have done, at the end of the year, the Honorable Minister for Agriculture, Senator Abubakar Kyari, decided to charge each of us to go and use his initiative to see how they can solve the problems within our area of operation. One of the areas we actually adopted was constructing of solar-driven boreholes, within a certain community at the brutally as they are passing along.
Cattle route.
Yes,
that is brutally.
Yes, the cattle route. Now, what we did in terms in ARCN was to make sure that we construct watering trough, so that as they are passing along the line, they will be able to take this water there, and it's provided by solar-driven borehole.
Where did you do your own, for instance?
What I did was I did in my community. I did in my community because I felt that they must have that understanding, because my community formed part of the cattle route that comes right from Maiduguri, passing through Wawazenge to Wase area, and it comes through Chip area, moving right up to Lafia, passing through my village. Now we have 3 of them now spread along that road. Because for the Fulani man, his problem is not light. His problem is not third road. His problem is not even water to drink. It's not his major problem, but water for his animal to actually drink. And whatever you do, they must move. They must move because it is not possible for you to grow grass that will feed 100 heads of cattle in a day. There's no way you can go and harvest that grass to feed 100 animals a day. Why are they maintaining 100 animals? It's because the feed conversion rate of the indigenous animals are not really good. So they will eat and eat and eat, and they don't convert into flesh. So you put as many of them as possible. But if along the line our artificial insemination program succeeds, it's about to take off now with the National Animal Production Research Institute. Once we take off on that artificial insemination this year, you will find out that we'll be able to come up and begin to artificially inseminate most of these animals. It's not going to be easy because we have tried and failed, tried again and failed. But this time around, the executive director of the institute has been able to convince the ministry that we can do something in that direction. Okay. We are hoping that we'll be able to improve the genetic composition of our cattle so that we'll convert them to real, feed converters.
While we're rounding up, I want you to say something on combating environmental issues, because when you aggregate, the whole problem revolves around that. Lake Chad has gone, all the river basins, they are not optimally being operated and all that.
There are 2 things there.
Okay.
It involves finance. Finance in terms of putting all the necessary ingredients in place for a forestation program and all the rest.
Like the green wall.
Yeah, of course, the green wall, because we have beautiful ideas, we have beautiful policies, but where to get the finance and be able to put them is a problem. The second aspect of it has to do with enlightenment.
But sometimes this finance, you see them there, but before you know, they have been swallowed by
No. You see, I don't think so. I don't think so. Of course, we cannot rule out the fact that there is corruption, but we also need to look at what is the genesis for that corruption. If I'm looking for example, 10,000 naira in order to operate a certain facility, and you bring 3,000 naira and give to me, you know that that money is not going to do anything. But there is also provision for what? There's provision for the human resource aspect of the operation. So the human resource in terms of survey, in terms of consultancy, swallows the 3,000 naira, and then you don't have the 7,000 naira to implement that state. The following year again, another one comes. So you keep on budgeting less. And we have one characteristic which we are trying to kill in ASEAN, for us to feel that each aspect of your program must be implemented. So thereby spreading the money so thin that you don't have it. If you go to Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, you see what we are doing there. We concentrate each year on one project and finish it. And that is why we start construction this year, we'll finish it. Okay. Another year we'll start, we'll finish it. We mounted our radio and television within 6 months. We're able to finish, and we have started broadcasting because in our own wisdom, we'll concentrate on the little. So we'll continue to do little and little until we do everything.
In less than 1 minute, because we have exhausted our time, all these predictions, 26 million people grappling with, low-level food security, hunger, malnutrition for the children. Is it possible to combat them?
We can combat them.
Okay, how?
As long as we enlighten our people on the right steps to take. Enlightenment is very, very necessary. And this is not only in the agricultural sector, it's in all. We have more food. How to process the food is also another aspect. This is an argument for another time.
I pray we have opportunity to bring you back to continue with the conversation. Thank you very much, Professor Garba Sharubutu, Executive Secretary, Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, for your informed perspective.
And I want to thank you most sincerely for allowing people to know that our researches are not on the shelf. They are there, we're utilizing them, and we're producing the food for people to consume.
Fair enough. And viewers, that's a wrap on today's package. We sincerely hope you found the conversation engaging and informative. And be sure to join Daily Politics airing live every weekday and our special package on Friday, during which we open our telephone line for you to comment on national issues. Tomorrow is your day. Keep a date with us. Bye-bye for now. I'm Hamza Idris.